Welcome, Chapter 8, Securing Information Systems. So what are we going to cover this week? Why are information systems vulnerable? How do we go about protecting them? What's security and control? The different components of the organization. And some of the tools that can help us. So that's what we're going to be looking at, security. What is security? Security are the policies and procedures we have in place that we have to follow to make sure that no one gets access to that. As we look around today, every other week it seems in the news someone's gotten hacked. Well, this is what this whole chapter is about. How do we prevent this from happening? How do we protect our data, our customers, our reputation? And that's what this is all about this week. And this is an important topic. You can actually get a whole degree, a whole master's degree and bachelor's, and even a doctorate degree into cybersecurity nowadays. So it is a topic that is very upfront and personal with everything going on today. So we always have different controls we put in place, whether they're policies by the organizations, procedures, sometimes just best practices, but we have to make sure that they're being followed. Otherwise, it is a waste of time and useless. So we make sure that all this information, we have the systems in place to make it prevent. Also, we've got to make sure that whoever's doing their job has access to the things they need to do when they need to do it. So we have all these people accessing our hardware. So what are some of the things that can happen? Well, we have hardware failure, configuration errors, damage, software problems. There could be bugs, holes, updates where you're needed. We always have natural disasters, power outages, hurricanes, tornadoes, as we look at what's happening right now. We have people who don't want to use, who have their own computers that get on, and their computer could be compromised. They dial into ours. So there's a whole lot of different things that we have. We also have the loss prevention. Someone steals a laptop, what's on information, or a thumb drive. So these are just some of the things that cause all these wonderful things to happen. So let's talk about the internet. Internet. Anyone can get to it, even criminals, unfortunately. Size of the internet, it is a worldwide impact on everything that we do. So it doesn't matter where we live, what we're doing. Someone from Russia can easily get into our computer system. Same from China, Korea. These are some of the hot spots where a lot of crime happens. So we have fixed that. We have, our different, a lot of computers are always on the internet. Laptops might stay on. Desktops are always on. Servers are always on. So these things have issues that we have to look at. One of the areas that doesn't get much attention is unencrypted voice over IP. That is when we have our communications open and anyone can hear what's going on. We also have email, P2P, and IM, instant messaging. These messages usually aren't encrypted or very light encryptions, and they can be intercepted. They can be attachments with malicious software. You're downloading that cute puppy, and it's really a virus being put onto your thing. We'll talk more about that in a second. We have transmitting trade secrets through email. You think it's safe. Nothing is safe if it's going out over the internet. How about wireless? It's wonderful, right? How many people even use a wire nowadays? Everyone's using wireless communication. Why? It's easy. You take your laptop, walk around. If I'm at an office, I don't need to run wires, spend tens of thousands of dollars to run wires. What all I have to do is put wireless connections in everything. Wireless has gotten so much better. But it's now causing issues. One of the big things, it's called war driving. And basically, this happened Target maybe about 5-6 years ago now. A truck literally just parked outside the building and tapped into the network. No one even knew it was there. They thought it was a customer. And here he was hacking into their network, and no one even knew that it was there. So these are some of the things that happen. You can even look up war driving. There's some great videos on that. Then we have all the wonderful software viruses. Malware, malicious software, viruses, worms, mobile devices, social networking malware. So these are all things that hackers and criminals have used to get into our systems. Virus is something you usually get if you open an email. You activate it by opening it. A worm is a little bit more dangerous in the fact that once a worm's on your system, it actually starts looking for servers. And it will go from server to server on its own, or from computer to computer on its own. It really doesn't take as much effort as a virus where you need to activate it. So worms are really dangerous to have. The other thing, how many people actually have software on their mobile phones? You know, we talked about this the other week. Mobile phones uses the same exact technology as computers. The packet switching. Well, guess what? Hackers can get into that. So we need to look at that. How about social networking malware? Well, one of the big things going on right now is this opt-in. You click on something, you give all these general information questions. Well, they're questions that are not really that general. They're usually your passwords, like what street did you grow up on? What grammar school did you go? What is your favorite color? These are the same questions that you're asked to identify your password. So people are trying to get this information from you. Excuse me. Trojan horse. This is where you open up a picture of a cute bunny rabbit or a puppy playing, and it's actually installing something in your software. Into your computer without you knowing it. While you're watching the video, something's going on there. We have ransomware. That was big about 2 years ago. You got infected, and you had to pay in Bitcoin to someone who, in order to get the key. Otherwise, all your data would be wiped out. So this was not. Banks and hospitals were all put up on here. Another big thing we have to look at is Loggers Spyware. This is something when somebody puts some information on your thing, they track every website you go to, and they also track your keystrokes. So you go to a website, you put in your username, and you put in your password. That is now sent to a third party who now has that access and can use it against you. These are just some of the more common things that goes on. Now we have hackers. Basically, they're trying to get into your system. They want your data. They want to do something with it. They might want to do some different things. They're going to have spoofing going on and sniffing, and they're trying to break your system. They want that information that's in it. They're going to use any means possible. Some of the things they might try to bring down your company is a DOS, or denial of attack of service. They have hundreds, and what they've done is they send out a malicious software or virus to hundreds, if not thousands, of computers, and they all try to get onto the same website at the same time. And what happens is it causes an overload. So no one can get to the access because too many people are trying. Botnets and spam, these are other things that we have. Computer crime. And this is just some of the things that go on. Couple of things that are still going on: identity theft, phishing. So sometimes you might get an email from someone saying, hey, I'm this wealthy prince out in Saudi Arabia. I got all this money. Here, send me your bank account information. I am going to put some money in there for you. It ain't happening. Or you get something more, your Amazon password's been hacked. Clicked on this website. Well, that's not really it. Amazon won't send that out to you. If you ever get that, just go to the website, and chances are you weren't hacked. We have cyber terrorism. That is a really big thing that the government's fighting, and cyber warfare. Again, these are just some of the things that are going on in the world right now. Here's the thing. We have all these outside threats that we got to deal with: viruses and hackers and thieves. But one of the biggest threats that we have, internal employees. They have access to a lot of different applications, and they can steal it. And sometimes that's the easiest way. What's his name? Snowden. Isn't that what he was? He's an insider. He downloaded all this information and sold it to WikiLeaks, or gave it to WikiLeaks. And what happened? All that information in it. You know, someone who's actually a good criminal isn't going to try to break into your network. They're just going to call up someone in your company, because they can get the exchange easy enough. Say, hey, I'm so-and-so from the IT department. Can I have your login and password? We're having an issue. And people give it to them. So we need to make sure we educate our workforce not to allow this to happen. Now we have software. There's always bugs in it. Not every software is created zero defects, because it costs way too much money. But there's flaws in it, and intruders figure that out. When there's flaws in the operating system, or something like Microsoft Office, that causes big problems. That's why you should always make sure you have your patches and your updates are always up to date, to make sure you're fighting all these, because Microsoft finds out about them, and will put bugs in and fixes in to release that keep that from happening. So you want to make sure you're checking your software. So what is business going to do? Failed computer systems, loss of business function, security breaches. So these are just some of the things that happen to organizations they need to keep in mind. Now, what does this mean to us? Well, the government, in their wisdom, has come up with a whole bunch of laws and regulations that we need to make sure that we meet. If I'm in the medical area, I better meet the HIPAA Act. Medical security of privacy and rules. Basically, I am protecting whoever comes into my office with their identity. I'm doing everything I can, but yet I'm making sure it's open for them to get what they want. Graham-Leach-Bliley Act requires financial institutions. Sarbanes-Oxley Act, or SOX, imposes responsibility on companies and their management to safeguard accuracy of financial information. So these are big financial ones. So what do we do for it? We have electronic evidence for white-collar crime. If your company is traded on the stock exchange, they have to keep every email, every electronic piece of information. I believe it's 7 or 8 years now that they can go back to and use against employees, and they do. So make sure you're careful of what you're sending in your emails. So how do we control all this? Well, general controls, we have governance design, we have security, we have logins, we have passwords, we have software and hardware controls, and how do we put all this in together? This is how the information systems take everything and put everything in together. Computerized applications. We also have risk assessment, determining the level of risk. Look, we can't, as a small business, I can't protect my company 100%. But at a certain level, I have to decide I'm going to spend X amount of dollars to protect this information. And this is what it allows me to do. And this is what the risk-aware assessment is what can we do with what we have. There should be all kinds of security policies in place. Employees should be making sure that they follow the security policies, that they go through it, they identify it, they understand it. It should be almost done on a regular basis. Disaster recovery is another issue we need to look at. Disaster recovery plan. A lot of companies don't have them in place. What happens if there's a hurricane and you lose power for 14 days? Who's going to be doing your job? Well, I can tell you that's what happened at one of the companies I worked at. We got hit by a hurricane, came early in the year, and we were our main office was without power for 14 days. We had a generator up and running. We actually sent people out to our Philadelphia office, but we had a plan in place. And it worked somewhat successfully. We had some issues, but we got it to work okay. And what happens if that goes down? What are you going to do for it? So these are some of the things that we need to have it. Let's think about Amazon. They were down a couple of weeks ago for a few hours. They lost millions of dollars in sales. So what plan do you have? And do we test our plan? These are just some of the things we need to do. Now, what we try to do is audit everything, the role of the auditing system. This makes sure that we're following the procedures, that we have policies in place, that they're being filled out. And the reason we want to audit is to make sure it's happening, not to get people in trouble, because that's not the important part of the audit. The audit is to make sure that our data is being secured, that our customers are happy. So this is why we want to make sure that we audit everything that's going on. So how do we put all this into place? Well, identify management software, automates who can get in and out. What kind of passwords do we use? Do we have tokens, smart cards, biometrics? Do we have 2 levels of authentication? These are just some of the methods that we have. No matter what we're using, we should always have our firewall, which is a combination of hardware and software that prevents this from happening, that helps keep our network safe. Intrusion detection. What happens? Do we monitor spots where somebody might get in? Certain ports might be open for certain reasons. Are we monitoring who gets in there? Are we up to date with our antivirus and anti-spyware? Every day there's new applications, new spyware being built. Well, are you updating that or your software? on a company network, even on a personal network? Are you getting updates on a regular basis to keep out anyone who doesn't belong? Securing networks, your wireless network. We talked about the war driving earlier. Well, there's different kinds of security. WEP, which is the most basic of it, and it basically allows, it says there's some encryption keys there. It's only 8-bit, but it allows us easy to crack. Then we have WPA2, which replaces it, and it's much stronger, longer encryption keys. What is encryption? Encryption is just the hiding of information. Basically, you have to have a key to unlock it. It's turned into ciphertext. It can't be read. And you have secure system layers and transport layer systems and secure hypertext. But when you're on the internet, you want to make sure that you're using one of these secure levels, especially if you're sending credit card information when you're making payments. But basically, encryption hides stuff in plain sight. And basically, we have symmetric encryption and public key, which uses 2 mathematical keys. And they're all run through algorithms that allow us to have all our data encrypted correctly. We also have digital certificates. This is a third party who certifies that your website is a good website, and it's on a list, and we get certified, and we send that to other people we want to do business with. Basically, that's what that is. Let's see, ensuring that online transaction requires 100% availability. We talked about what happens when Amazon's down for an hour. How much data do they lose? How much money do they lose? Securing issues. All right, everything's up on the cloud. How do we know it's safe? Not that long ago, about 4 years ago, we had a bunch of people, famous people that had iClouds. They were all hacked. Anything on the internet, someone has a backdoor to and can get to it. So we need to make sure we have the right levels of security agreements that we have. Where do we store the data? What are our privacy issues? These are some of the things we need to look at. And the last thing we're going to look at is software quality. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. What is our quality of our data? When we talked about big data. Well, this is about the same thing, except we're making sure the application is secure. We're making sure the application meets all the software matrices, that it's the number of transactions online, that everything is being checked out. Is it being backed up? What type of testing are we doing on it? So these are some of the things that we want to look at. So that was Chapter 8. Remember to smile. We'll talk soon.